Chairperson.
Morning, comrades.
Hello.
Hello. Put the agenda on the screen. Pilot.
Yes, sir. The agenda is there on the screen, Chair.
No, thank you very much. May I check? A waste of time. May Pilot assist us on the item in the agenda, please?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair, and good morning, honorable members and colleagues. The agenda that is on the screen there, we are going to consider the program of the committee for the remaining items that are there. I will project it on the screen, and then after that we're going to receive a short presentation, more like a summary from Equal Education Law Center. Remember that their matter was considered by the 5th Parliament Constitutional Review Committee, and they could not conclude, and therefore they recommended that our committee should take the matter forward. So today we're going to hear from them what is it that they want to be reviewed under Section 100 of the Constitution. Their submission and their presentation has already been circulated. In addition, Parliament during 5th Parliament had sought a legal opinion from Parliamentary Legal Services. They are also present. They can also maybe brief the committee on the legal opinion that was requested by the 5th Parliament. Then maybe they can also assist the members with that regard. So basically, those are the items on the agenda, Chair.
Thanks, members. Is there any other addition on what has been tabled in the agenda?
Chairperson, my hand is up.
Let me check.
It's Honorable Maseko, Chair.
Honorable Maseko, yes.
Thank you, Chair, for noting me. I just want to check, because in our last meeting, Chairperson, there are issues that we requested that the follow-up must be made. One of those issues is the issue of the language. If you remember that we wanted our team to go and look for those documents that were talking to the issue of sign language. That, yes, I'm not sure, I can't see that. I'm not sure if maybe there's somewhere where we're on the issues of consideration of, I don't know, program. Can you assist me, Chair? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sisanda?
Chair, maybe let me speak to it, Chair. The issue of sign language, yes, I did do a follow-up on that. Chair, that issue, the matter was agreed to by the Constitutional Review Committee, the 5th Parliament Constitutional Review Committee. It went to the House, and the House referred the matter to the Justice Committee. I got the information from the Secretary of the Justice Committee, Mr. Bonani Ramano. He says that the matter is now with the Justice Committee, because our committee, after we adopt the report, we submit it to the House, and then the House will refer it to the appropriate committee to take the matter forward in terms of affecting the legislation. So that matter is with the Justice Committee. So they are the ones who will have to initiate the legislation that will give effect to that resolution. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, without making it dialogue, can I come back again?
Please.
Without dialogue, Chair. Thank you, Chairperson. I just want to say I'm a member of Justice. As I'm talking to you now, I'm from that committee, but I left the meeting on. I requested that I wanted to join this meeting, put an apology there. So I wanted to get a clarity exactly, or do I have to go to Bonani for that? Because there is nothing like that in Justice committee. So maybe Bonani and I don't know. I'm sorry, I just forgot the name now of our secretary that I was talking with. That if we can get that document, because our resolution last time it was, can we get those documents so that they can come and be with us in the committee, and then we say, okay, now we have got them. Now we can refer them, because it's something that happened previously, and we have been told that is with Justice, and there's nothing like that with Justice, and unless maybe they're still going to bring it to Justice. Thank you.
Maybe to come in, is it possible, Pilot, that we can get something in writing over this matter so that we can do some follow-up?
Yes, Chair. I think it's possible, but maybe Professor Mutseka can also assist, because Bonani told me that the referral was done while the chair of the justice was still Professor Mutseka. I'm not. I think he can assist.
Co-chair, I think
Yes.
in agreement with the Honorable Maseko Jele and yourself, let's just have a written referral. And the documents before us, so that we don't speculate. Because I can't remember seeing the referral, but I don't think there's a train smash. Let's ask Advocate Gwebu to find the written referral and the relevant documents attached to it.
I think the meetings agree that you will do so, Pilot. Get us those documents so that we can move forward on these matters. Okay. What we'll do also, we will go through all the notes and ensure that when we bring those matters, all what was raised previously is also covered, so that we don't deal with one by one issue at a time. Can we agree on that way?
Yes, Chair.
Yes, Chair.
Now, members, I think let's take the first item now on the agenda, now that we have agreed. We will be getting, according to the agenda, will be briefed by the Equal Education on the review of Section 100.
Chair, maybe
yes,
the agenda was to look at our program moving forward from now on today until when we close.
Can we present it?
Yes, Chair.
Please, Pedro.
Okay. The program is on the screen. I hope you can see it. So today is the Wednesday, 11 November 2020. We are receiving a briefing from Equal Education Law Center on the review of Section 100 of the Constitution. We'll also be briefed by Parliamentary Legal Services on the legal opinion which was obtained in support of the submission. On Friday, this coming Friday, we will be considering the submissions that we received during the 2020 year cycle, the ones that we advertised in May. So we're going to receive a briefing from the content advisor, and the committee will deliberate on the submissions on Friday, this coming Friday. Next week, we also have reserved a slot for further deliberations on the submissions. And then the other week, we anticipate that maybe there will be some submissions that will require a legal opinion on. So we have reserved the 27th of November to receive that. We'll have the content advisor would have highlighted those submissions that need legal opinion, and we hope that we will have received the legal opinion, and the committee will have an opportunity to deliberate. And then the last meeting would be on Friday, the 4th of December, where we'll be adopting any reports that we have and our minutes. Thank you, Chair. Over to you.
Thanks, Pilot. The hearing members and colleagues, the proposed program as from now until December. Any agreement on the program? Or do you foresee any other items that might be left over for this year that need our attention to be added up in this agenda? I take it that members, you agree with the programs. Any mover of the program?
Chairperson.
Michelle?
Chair.
Yes, my leader.
Thank you very much. Before we move, I do not see the program reflecting on issues emanating from the legacy report. I hear the issue of the sign language, but there are issues of the other languages that we deliberated on in the last meeting. But otherwise, the program is in order. We just need an addition of those issues of which we discussed in our previous meeting. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Comrade Marshall. I think members, we agree that we will get a report back from Pilot, especially after they've consolidated with Asanda for our previous meeting, especially those matters that were not resolved, the Pedu language, and the other for languages, let me call it languages, that they are part of this program. They will find time and brief us on those matters after they've got the referral. Are we not going to do that?
You are right, Co-Chair.
Okay.
Susanna, is that possible?
Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, members, the idea is that we have received a Kilubedu submission during the course of this year's cycle. Whereas when I had briefed the committee before broadly on languages, it was matters that had come up during the course of other parliamentary terms. But the committee, in terms of its mandate, has to work through submissions which it has received by the formal process of the submissions we receive in May. So last week, the last meeting we had, we discussed the matter of sign language and the fact that the committee had already had this matter adopted by Parliament, and now because our rules don't allow us to do a constitutional amendment bill to effect the change that we say should happen, it passes on the work to a committee whose rules support the passing of a constitutional amendment bill. So therefore, Chairperson, the other languages, there has been a Kilubedu submission which we've received in the 2020 year cycle, and I will be briefing the members on that, and we will be able to take it forward because it has come through the formal process. So that is the response for now, Chair.
In short,
maybe, Chair. Yes. I wanted to say, in addition, Chair, the legacy report, part of this, the agenda item for today is part of the legacy report. Those are the matters that were outstanding. So the issue of equal education and the review of Section 100, it's also part of the items that form part of the legacy report that we have to deal with. So if I'm correct, it's the last item and the languages. But with the languages, we can only process the submissions that we have received, and the sign language was concluded and reported to the House, and the House took a decision but I'll bring the referral. I will request the referral from the from the Secretary of the Justice Committee, and I will distribute it to the members, which shows that the matter is now vested with the Justice Committee for further processing.
Members, if I may summarize, is that you are saying part of these issues, we are still going to, it's still part of the agenda, and you will brief us when we get into that point. However, other issues that are resolved that they need only the referral, you're still going to bring that at a later meeting. Do you agree on that? Am I right? I'm checking my understanding.
You are right, Co-Chair.
So if
Chair,
yes, who's speaking?
Maseko Jele.
Maseko? Yes, ma'am.
Maseko Jele, my leader. I just want to make a request, Chair, because this discussion, we had it in our previous meeting. It's just a request, Chair, that please, next time when we sit here, we must not come back and talk about these issues. We need action. It's just a humble request that whatever that we agree upon in the next meeting, let's have progress. Let's have those things. We should not have, discussions in terms of talking only. It's just a humble request, Chairperson, that let's have a movement. Thank you, Chair.
No, thanks, my leader. I think your point is noted. Can we then move on, colleagues? Any other thing that I'm leaving behind before I propose that we move?
Nothing, Co-Chair. Proceed.
Can I take it, members, that now our program for this year is adopted? Can I get a mover?
I move, Chair.
And a seconder. Thank you so much, Ms. Seko.
Malika second, Chair.
Malika, thank you very much, members. I hope that there's no other dissenting view on the matter. If so, raise your hand so that we can deal with it quickly. Members, then let's take our first deliberation of the day today, of getting the briefing on the section 100. Am I correct, members? Pilot?
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair.
Who's doing that for us?
There are representatives from the Equal Education Chair, the people who made the submissions. So maybe they'll give us a bird's eye view of the contents of their submission, but it has already been circulated. I'm not too sure how much time they will need to present, but they are there. I think it's I see Jen Bowman.
Hi, good morning.
Who's presenting for us? Is it Dan?
I will be presenting on, good morning, honorable members. I will be presenting on behalf of Equal Education, and Astrid Coombs will be presenting on behalf of Equal Education Law Centre, but it's one presentation. I just have one quick question. Will the slides be displayed on the shared screen, or will you guys require us to share the slides from our screen?
We would prefer that you just, I don't know, Pilot, do you have the slides on your side so that you can flag it on the screen?
Yes, Chair, I do have the slides, but let me see if I'll manage to project it here.
We would also appreciate, Jane, if you can introduce yourself and the team that you are with, so that we know whom are we talking with in this platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I would like to say thank you to the chairs and honourable members for making time for this presentation. As it says on the shared screen, we will be dealing with a 2016 submission made by Equal Education and the Equal Education Law Centre on amending Section 100 of the Constitution. You can go to the next slide, please. Just briefly, so that in case members aren't familiar with our organizations, I'm from Equal Education. I'm the parliamentary researcher there. Equal Education is a membership-based democratic movement of learners, post-school youth, parents, teachers, and community members who are involved in advocating for equal and quality education in South Africa. My colleague, Astrid Coombs, is from the Equal Education Law Centre, which is a public interest law centre specializing in education law. Equal Education Law Centre uses legal advocacy, research, and litigation to advance the struggle for equal and quality education. As you can see, this presentation aims to provide a summary of the submission that we made back in 2016 on the amendment of Section 100 of the Constitution. This presentation will provide an overview of Section 100 of the Constitution, highlight the problems encountered with Section 100 interventions in our experience, and outline our recommendations for an amendment to this committee. Just briefly, to familiarize yourselves with Section 100, the full text is on the right of the screen, but to just pull out some key points. In terms of Section 101, it requires that, or it allows that a national government may intervene in the running of a provincial department if the provincial department is not fulfilling their constitutional obligations. This can be done in two ways, either through issuing a directive to the province, or temporarily, so national government temporarily taking over the functioning of a provincial department. If the second option, so that is that national government actually takes over the functioning of a provincial department, if that intervention is implemented, it must be to meet one of the goals outlined in Section 100B. Section 101B, sorry. These include maintaining national security or to ensure effective service delivery. Next slide, please. In terms of Section 102 and Section 103, which are the last two parts of Section 100, Section 102 outlines the steps that must be taken if a Section 100 intervention is instituted. One of the steps that Equal Education and Equal Education Law Centres, our submission focuses on, is that it states that the National Council of Provinces must review the intervention regularly and make recommendations. However, there is no definition given for regularly in the section. Lastly, Section 103 states that it is optional for legislation to be created that regulates Section 100 interventions. Next slide, please. Equal Education and Equal Education Law Centre, through our research and our advocacy and work on the ground, we have encountered a number of problems with Section 100 interventions. The intention behind Section 100 interventions is to ensure that national government rebuilds the capacity of provinces in an organised, accountable, and transparent manner. It is meant to ensure that national government the wording of Section 100 is meant to ensure that national government doesn't overstep during a Section 100 intervention and infringe on provinces' constitutionally designated mandate and role. However, as I stated, in practice, there have been a number of issues with Section 100 interventions. Next slide, please. Two examples will just be briefly highlighted. And these are specifically with the Eastern Cape. This was one of the examples that we used in our original submission in 2016. Obviously, since 2016, there have been varying developments, but we've highlighted the Eastern Cape province as that is also discussed in our full submission. So in 2011, a Section 100 intervention was instituted in the Eastern Cape Department of Education. Unfortunately, this intervention was plagued with a lack of clarity regarding the scope of national government's role and power, and this often led to sort of a tug of war between whose role it was to fulfill certain functions between national government and provincial government. In addition, there was irregular and vague reporting by the national government to the National Council of Provinces, and the intervention failed to meet its mandate and correct issues of failed service delivery. Next slide, please. Another example where we have seen problems with a Section 100 intervention is in the Northwest Province. This intervention was instituted in 2018, so this is a more recent example, and it was instituted in 10 provincial departments. It was some were merely directive interventions, and some were actually national government taking control of provincial governments. One of these departments was also the Provincial Education Department. Again, with this intervention, there was a lack of transparency by the national task team managing the intervention, and again, confusion as to the responsibility for different provincial obligations, whether this was the responsibility of the national government or the provincial government. To date, there's also issues regarding the status of the intervention. For example, there has been contradictory messaging as to when the intervention will end and whether or not the intervention is continuing in all 10 of the departments. Next slide, please. So from our experience, we extrapolated a summary of the issues that Section 100 interventions have experienced. The first is a lack of clear rules regulating national interventions. The second, lack of sufficient progress reporting by the national government to the National Council of Provinces. Thirdly, a lack of sufficient oversight by the National Council of Provinces. And obviously that is linked to the second point, as without sufficient progress reporting, it's hard for the National Council of Provinces to provide sufficient oversight. There's also a lack of transparency to the public, which makes it harder for the public and civil society to hold provincial and national governments to account. There's a lack of clarity regarding when an intervention will or has ended. And lastly, and most importantly, we have found that one of the issues is that these Section 100 interventions are often ineffective. Now, for the next portion of the presentation, my colleague Astrid Coombs from Equal Education Law Centre will take you through our proposed amendments.
Thank you, Jane, and good morning, Honourable Chairs and Honourable Members. So on this slide, you'll see we've just provided a brief overview of the proposed amendments contained in our 2016 submission. And just to say at the outset that the suggestions are aimed at ensuring a more transparent, accountable and effective process. So EE and ELC are recommending that we amend Section 100 to make the enactment of legislation regulating the intervention compulsory, that the NCOP be required to review the progress of the intervention quarterly, that the National Executive report to the NCOP quarterly on the progress, challenges and steps being taken in the progress as the Section 100 intervention unfolds. Next slide, please. Just to give you a little bit more detail. So again, as I said, we're proposing that Section 103 be amended to make the enactment of legislation regulating the intervention compulsory, so that we can establish a regulatory framework for effective intervention. So as it currently reads, Section 103 states that national legislation may regulate the process established by this section, and EE and the ELC are proposing that 103 be amended so that the enactment is compulsory and that the word may be deleted and be replaced with the words must be enacted to in place thereof. Next slide, please. We're also recommending that the NCOP review the progress of the intervention quarterly. In terms of Section 102, the NCOP has the authority to decide on the commencement of an intervention and is required to play an important oversight role. We're proposing that 102C be amended to specify the time period of review to at least quarterly, and that subsection D be inserted, which requires the executive to report to the NCOP on progress achieved, challenges encountered, and steps taken to address these challenges. The executive must be required to report in writing as well as orally, and this should take place on a quarterly basis. The proposed amendments will foster accountability. The NCOP will be better able to represent the province's interests if it's regularly updated on the intervention in the province and the challenges being experienced. The NCOP will be able to make recommendations to the national executive regarding the intervention. Regular reporting will also ensure that the process is conducted as expeditiously as possible. The amendment will go a long way toward preventing ineffective and unaccountable interventions, as my colleague has pointed out previously. Regular reporting will also enable the public to remain informed as to whether, and if so, how the national executive has been responsive to service delivery in the province. Civil society will also be able to assess and interrogate, and in so doing, hold government to account. The proposed amendment will ensure a constant exchange of information between the National Council of Provinces and the National Executive to really stimulate cooperation and consultation between the two. Next slide, please. So as my colleague mentioned at the outset, this written submission was put forward in 2016. In March 2019, we really welcomed an undertaking by the Constitutional Review Committee, which stated that it was in favour of a slight amendment to Section 100 so as to give clarity and effect. And at this point, we're urging this committee to formally adopt our submission. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the two presentation. Now I will allow members of the committee to seek clarity question on the matters that have been presented to us. Thank you.
Perhaps, Chair, sorry, Chair, maybe to intervene. There is Parliament requested a legal opinion at the time regarding the submission. I see there is the Parliamentary Legal Service. Maybe you can give them maybe a chance to maybe briefly comment on what the legal opinion said regarding the matters that have just been presented on.
Before we deal with the two presentation.
That's my proposal, Chair.
I don't see any transmatch members. Maybe let's give our legal team to take us through.
Yes, Chair. Agree.
Who's there to take us through?
Hi, good morning, Chairperson. My name is Natim Jenglani from Parliamentary Legal Services.
Natim, you are welcome. Take us through, my leader.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, may I just please confirm with you and members of the committee if you have a copy of the legal opinion which you provided the committee? Because no, I'm asking, Chairperson, because we will be taking you through that legal opinion, and I wanted to reference some of the paragraphs in the opinion as I'm presenting, and that it would be useful for members to also have a copy to look at those paragraphs as we go through them.
Chair, I can confirm that the legal opinion was circulated to all the members.
No, I'm just checking if is it possible to also to flag it meanwhile, Pilot.
Okay, I will try to and look for it here. Okay.
Got it. I'm saying this, Pilot, because sometimes you'll find that members are using the same gadget. It's difficult to open it on the other gadget while you are also using it for the same visual.
Okay, Chair.
Yeah.
I will flag it, Chair, while Mr. Mchangana is continuing.
Yeah, maybe meanwhile, let me allow the legal advice to take us through while you are still trying to open it up, Pilot.
Okay.
Let's continue.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson, and my colleague Pilot for assisting. Chairperson, I will not repeat most of the background which the presenters have just gone through, because our legal opinion sets out all of the background that they have just spoken to now. So I will start presenting this opinion from page 6 of the opinion which we provided members. And that's where our advice starts from, Chairperson. It also, our advice in that paragraph 15 of the legal opinion, sets out the background to this. And that this is an issue that affects section 100 of the Constitution, which section deals with national intervention in provincial administration. Chairperson, here we make note of the fact that the issue of intervention is one that should not be taken lightly, because the constitutional design sets out that there are 3 spheres of government which have reasonable autonomy to carry out their own affairs, of affairs falling under their administration. Particularly in this instance where there's an envisaged intrusion by one sphere on another, being the national sphere intruding or intervening on a measure of provincial administration. So we just make that note, Chairperson, that this is a matter that is in the constitutional design is such that there is autonomy, and therefore in this one section of section 100, that design is then altered slightly to allow for instances where it is absolutely necessary to intrude in the manner as set out in section 100. In our analysis, Chairperson, we do agree with the submitters that this intrusion that is set out in section 100 calls for clarity. We agree with them in that respect, Chairperson, because of the examples that they have cited, where section 100 has been engaged, where national has intervened in a provincial matter without any clarity in terms of the processes, the rules that must guide such an intrusion. In paragraph 19, Chairperson, just to read out that paragraph, we say, section 100 of the Constitution provides for the preconditions for an intervention by the national executive in the affairs of the provincial executive. However, there must be clearly stated reasons as to why an intervention is necessary, because an intervention cannot be arbitrary. This is one of the reasons, Chairperson, we support in our advice the submission, the recommendation of the submission, that there needs to be some clarity as to the application of section 100. Because the national executive may not only intervene when a province cannot or does not fulfill its executive obligations, which are imposed by the Constitution or legislation. It must take appropriate steps to ensure the fulfillment of the obligations, which includes issuing directives stating the failure and steps that must be taken to remedy such failure, and assuming responsibilities for the relevant obligation in that province to the extent necessary. So Chairperson, that's just laying out the basis of this intervention as to when it becomes necessary. In paragraph 22, we say that it is an established fact that there are no guidelines more than just the principle which is stated in section 100 of the issue of intervention. So there are no guidelines to implement the interventions. And this has caused confusion in the past with regard to the roles and responsibilities of state actors in this regard. And that the lack of clarity regarding the scope, powers, and procedures of an intervention has led to disputes of exercise of power of an intervention, specifically in the Eastern Cape. So in this regard, we therefore submitted, Chairperson, our advice that the lack of guidelines necessitates that there must be legislation, the one which is envisaged in section 100, subsection 3 of the Constitution, and that one must be enacted. We also, Chairperson, noted that parliamentary committees have in the past also accepted or noted that there needs to be a legislation or legislation is necessary in order to clarify the issue of the powers and functions, roles and responsibilities which should be engaged during an intervention. And that we say this aspect of the submitters is supported, Chairperson. They make a compelling case, and they are citing practical examples which are well known in the public with regard to how this issue of Section 100 interventions has not particularly been most efficient in its application due to the lack of clarity regarding the powers and functions, roles and responsibilities of the actors in that regard. We also, Chairperson, noted that there is a strong argument that legislation is not the only tool or mechanism that can be used to deal with the matter of functions, roles, and responsibilities. However, we say in our opinion, Chairperson, that it remains one of the most effective mechanisms of setting formalized rules with detailed consequences in law to deal with the issue of failure and failure to perform. We note, Chairperson, also in our opinion in paragraph 26 specifically, that the presidential task team, including academics also who are well known within the sphere of education, such as Professor Mary Metcalf, have supported the idea of an enactment of legislation to steer the implementation of Section 100 in interventions where it is necessary. Specifically, they have said that the proposed legislation, which is the legislation as proposed by the, as referred to by the submitters, which we also refer to in our opinion, will provide for a more integrated cooperative governance system in which national government monitors and supports provincial government more effectively, and is able to develop a system of early warning signals of significant provincial government's failures. And the task team also noted, which is the presidential task team, that if legislation had already been passed as envisaged in Section 103, Section 100, subsection 3, it would have provided greater clarity on the roles and responsibilities of different role players and would have made for a more effective intervention, particularly in the province of Limpopo, which the task team had been attending to. Again, Chairperson, as we had said, previous parliamentary committees have also supported this idea, specifically the Portfolio Committee on Basic Education, which related the same principle of the legislation being necessary, as it related to the Limpopo Presidential Task Team, which was working with an intervention in that province, as well as the Select Committee of Finance in the NCOP has also supported this issue, saying and these committees being amongst the institutions that have called for an urgent development of legislation which deals with the mechanics of Section 100, or at least the detail of how Section 100 should be engaged in an intervention. We know, Chairperson, no such legislation, regardless of all of this support for this legislation that has come from previous parliamentary committees, presidential task team, the academics, and various other role players in society, including civil society. And there has been no legislation that has been passed, or at least proposed, since then. Section 100, Chairperson, currently makes it discretionary to enact this legislation that we're talking about, and that this has demonstrably is a crucial piece of legislation that will set out the guidelines which are necessary in implementing or making Section 100 effective. And therefore, there's a need to make this enactment a constitutional obligation in order to ensure that it is carried out, as that would motivate that it must be enacted, because the discretion currently has not yielded any results. So the submitters, the second proposal of the submitters is that the Section 100 subsection 2 of the Constitution must also be amended. The Constitution sets out the principles which are elaborated in the legislation, and that we submit that in this regard, we do not support the amendment of Section 100 subsection 2, Chairperson, because the legislation which we say we support that could be enacted could provide sufficient rules which could also detail that which is set out in Section 100 subsection 2 of the Constitution, and that the proposal to elaborate the oversight role of the NCOP with regard to an intervention may also be outlined in that legislation. Chairperson, without taking much of your time, I'll go to the specific advice which we gave the committee, and it starts at paragraph 30 of our opinion. We say in that advice that the national intervention as provided for in section 100 of the Constitution is a crucial mechanism to ensure delivery of services, and that uniformity within the Republic of South Africa must also be supported in terms of that section 100. And that while section 100 intervention may present an intrusion on the autonomy of a province, the purpose for this section is to be interpreted very narrowly, such that it does not empower the national executive to frivolously interfere with provincial powers. So relating to that issue of the constitutional design, to have some powers exercised at provincial level, and government, national government not having an automatic power to intervene. So we say that it must be interpreted narrowly. The enacting legislation will provide the safeguards to prevent the possible abuse of section 100 in the event that it had to be engaged, that it does not get engaged on a frivolous grounds. And all of those rules on when and how it should be engaged would be set out in the proposed legislation. Once the need for legislation has been noted by the government institutions, as we have counted them, Chairperson, there has been no legislation introduced to cure the intended mischief in law. The unintended mischief in law, my apologies, Chair. And therefore we submitted, Chairperson, as we still do, that the justifications in law where we have cited practical challenges in support of amending section 103 of the Constitution in order to make the enactment of legislation a constitutional obligation to elaborate roles and responsibilities of all state actors have been established. In this regard, Chairperson, we say a clear case has been made for such an amendment. It's been supported. We also, in this opinion, Chairperson, having looked at all of the information, also are of the view that we support the amendment of section 100, subsection 3, to make that an obligation, to make that section obligatory or peremptory for Parliament to pass the legislation. We say that the intervention in its design is remedial in nature, as it is intended to assist the provincial administration to carry out its obligations in law. Setting out in strong rules such as legislation would be beneficial in making government more efficient within those clearly defined rules. And therefore we support, Chairperson, the proposal to amend section 103 of the Constitution. We also, Chairperson, note that in our opinion, very importantly, that whilst we support this amendment of section 103, that it be amended to provide what as proposed, we do note, Chairperson, that taking a decision to do so remains a policy decision, which must be taken by this committee, having had sight of all of the information, considered and deliberated, and therefore come to a decision on how it wants to proceed going forward. Thank you, Chairperson. That is in essence, that is the essence of our advice to the committee with regard to the proposed amendment of section 100. Thank you, Chair.
Co-chair.
Yes.
Co-chair, can I come in?
Please.
Thank you. I haven't heard what is the recommendation as to which committee should be responsible for developing that legislation. Could I be, maybe I didn't listen properly. Which committee is suggested for that purpose?
Thank you, members. And now that it's been presented, all the documents, any other presentation before we attend to the chair, because he has already started the discussion on the matter. Any others that is left legally? Are you covered?
Chair, those are the only presentations that we were set to receive today. So from now to be deliberations on the two presentations.
Okay. Now, thank you very much, Pilot. Let's now deliberate matters. Members, let's now discuss the matters that have been put before us. But sometimes it assists the committee that we go straight to the advice from our legal desk, especially if you look at page 9. notwithstanding that members can ask anyway, but to guide our discussion, it can also assist us to zoom direct to page 9, which is page 30. Yes, page 30, where the advices are coming through. And also we will expect that you can also respond on the issues that has been raised by the chair, by the co-chair. Note that so that when you respond, you also start with that question. Members, can I see hands? Maseko? Maseko, your hands is up.
Okay. I thought that maybe we're still counting people who are raising hands. I'm still okay.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, you're noting.
You can come in.
Okay.
You can come
Thank
in.
you okay. Thank you very much, Chair. And also, let me note and appreciate the presentation, the briefing by Equal Education. What is it? A resource center? What is it? I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for not exactly quoting the presenters accordingly. But also, Chair, also let me appreciate the advice by our legal team on this matter. I thought that, Chairperson, because taking into consideration that some of us are new in this committee, and we also, the documents that you were talking about, I don't think that it will, from my side, it's just a proposal that justice will be made on when it comes to really getting down to this issue in a manner that everybody is satisfied and take a decision, in fact, endorse what the previous committee has already done, Chairperson. I don't know, I thought that because we have received the presentation, we have received the legal advice, we can allow have another meeting where we sit down as a committee alone and deliberate on these issues properly and talk, with having enough time, and then we endorse properly. So I'm not sure if maybe having us, we have just received this presentation, now we received the legal advice, I'm talking about myself, maybe it's me, that I don't think that justice will be made on this one, because we have to sit as a committee and debate this issue and then endorse it properly. So my suggestion is that, how about we note the presentations, we note the advices, and then we don't take a decision.
You're breaking off?
I'm sorry, I was just trying somebody's doing something outside, so there's a noise coming. You see now. So my proposal, Chair.
Yes,
can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you loud. Yes, but we did not get your latter part proposal.
Yes, my proposal is that let's note the presentation and welcome it, and also the advices, but let's not deliberate on this issue now. Can we have time where we come back and sit down as a committee and finish it on our own, and then refer it to the right committees? That's my proposal, Chair. Thank you.
Co-chair.
Yes, Chair.
In agreement with the Honorable Jelle, maybe we could just take questions for clarity on the presentations. but I think follow the proposals that she's, in my view, correctly putting forward.
Colleagues and members, there is a proposal that let's note the discussion, the presentation, and then let's discuss it. Find time to go through it. Maybe we can discuss it in our own study groups and have positions and see where else we want to add it up or before it gets endorsed. And there's also, I think for now, let me allow seeking clarity questions on the on all the presentation that are there, so that when we go when we take the document for our own to discuss it, we would have already had all the questions and the clarities on the document. We will deal with it with an understanding. Is there any other hands, members, that wants to raise seeking clarity question on? Will assist me, Pilot, if somebody else has raised hand.
Okay, Chair. I'm not sure if Honorable Maseko Jele is raising again or it was earlier on. But
No,
I
it
see
was
that
earlier on. It was earlier on. My apologies.
Okay. Okay, lower that hand. I don't see any hands on the screen.
Chair, there was a question by Professor Mutseha about which committee should effect the amendment bill if, let's say, because my understanding is that, Chair, our committee will take a decision and then write a report that will be considered by the House and the National Council of Provinces. Then that's when they will determine which committee is the relevant. For example, they may decide that it's the portfolio committee on basic education, but it won't be our committee. It will be up to the houses to decide. But maybe someone else can decide. Yeah.
Co-Chair,
yes, Doctor.
I'm happy with that explanation.
Okay. Let me check if are we still within time? If we said we're still gonna discuss this matter and come back later, would we have enough time to do that? And when would be the latest? I see a hands. Yes, there are two hands. It's Maseko and Romin.
Ronan. I don't know.
And myself, Co-Chair.
Okay, you would be the third one, Co-Chair.
Maybe Chair Ronan can introduce himself or herself. I don't have a record on who he is or she is.
Good morning, honorable members. My name is Renee McFarlane. I'm the co-head of research at Equal Education. And I just wanted to use this moment to remind the committee that there has been extensive delays in finalizing this matter. And I want to raise some concern about the suggestion that the committee cannot deliberate with other parties in the room. We are members of the public who have a right to attend these meetings. And it seems odd that the committee is making the suggestion that because we are in the room, deliberations can't take place and the decision can't be made. And it's a specific concern because we first made the submission in 2016, and we were told at multiple points in the year that this presentation would be considered, we are now almost at the closing of Parliament and we still don't have a final resolution on the matter.
There is Honorable Maseko Jele.
I see Maseko, but let me correct that the issue was not that members don't want to discuss this matter in front of everybody else. They said I thought the proposal was saying, since we have received now the recommendation and the advice through this presentation, can we get just a bit of a time, look at it, and then come back? We will have the full session. It's not necessary that after, I don't know how parties they discuss, but after going through all this discussion, we will have one session where we'll be adopting these matters. I thought the proposal was around there. Yes. Let me give it to Maseko Jele first, and then
let me just first, Co-Chair, just to lay that matter to rest, let me just place on record that I concur with your understanding that their intention was not to exclude people, but to give members of the committee to go and digest and prepare. So there's no exclusion.
Yeah. Okay, Chair. Maseko?
Thank you, Chair. I think you both covered me very well. Even in our next meeting, they will be invited as the members of public, as we normally do. But I think, again, as our stakeholders, they need to appreciate that we have a procedure, how we do our things. We don't want to set a precedence where we will always receive presentations now, and then we immediately take decisions. We must go and apply our mind and then read these documents and come back. It's unfortunately because the stakeholder member is raising the issue of time frame. We will definitely look into that one. It's noted. I think Chairperson will note that they are, yes. So, but I don't think that we will hurry things because of that thing. The only thing that we need to do is that our next meeting, Chairperson, it should be the committee must sit. So we must come back, yes, even if it's any day from today, before the end of next week, we sit down and take a decision on this one, and then we dispose it. I don't think that there is any strange make. I don't now. I'm lost because now I had to respond to that one. I remember my hand was up for something else, Chair, but it's okay. It's okay. Let me just I pause there, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, comrade. Thanks, member. Members, we were still dealing with seeking clarity question on the presentation. If we have, if we all, Michelle, Tim, your hands was up.
And myself, Co-Chair.
Okay, Doc. Tim?
Chair, thanks. I'm covered with your. I wanted to get into that space of saying we are not closing members of the community out. It's an issue that we want to have time to digest and look at this thing before we can have an opinion. By the way, equal education must be at ease. We're having this meeting today because we've invited them. It's a sign that we take them into confidence and we want to move with them. So there are space to digest their presentation and make an informed decision. Thanks, Chair.
No, thank you very much, members. Doc?
Co-Chair, I think it's important to note what the legal opinion said, that this matter affects the constitutional design, that whatever position that we take affecting the constitutional design may have implications for other parts of the Constitution. So I think Honorable Maseko Jele and Honorable Mashel are right in saying that we need to apply our mind, and that doesn't mean that we will delay the matter unreasonably. So we will attend to the matter within reasonable time, and at that time when we deal with the matter, the meeting will be open, so they will not be prejudiced. So, and I also just want to say, in agreement with Honorable Mashele, that the fact that we put this matter on the agenda and invited them demonstrate our seriousness to deal with the matter. So they shouldn't worry. We are serious about this matter ourselves, and the concerns that have been highlighted by the legal opinion are also matters of concern to us. But I think that we should not take shortcuts. We should apply our minds, because we are dealing with the fundamental law of the country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, members and colleagues. Let me hand over to you, co-chair, now that we're here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, co-chair, for ensuring that this meeting takes place and that this matter is prioritized. You can see that there's no other matter that was on the agenda except this matter, to show that this committee and its honorable members take this matter seriously. And we also should thank the legal services for providing us with a very clear legal opinion, which will help us to prepare for the next meeting. I think we should adjourn the meeting on the basis that the two co-chairs will communicate with the Secretariat to see how soon this matter can be brought back to the agenda, so that we take the matter forward. But we must also thank the presenters for being vigilant, for wanting to see that our Constitution is clear, because if the Constitution is not clear, there will be arbitrary action on the part of the executive, and that cannot be tolerated in a constitutional state. We thank you for your contribution.
Honourable members.
Thank you.
Apologies for interrupting. I wasn't sure if my raised hand could be seen. I was just wondering, thanks again, and we appreciate that you guys are taking the time and taking this matter seriously. Would it be possible to get a commitment to having, as was earlier said, a meeting by the end of this week?
Honourable.
Sorry, but finalized by next week.
Honourable member, this is the co-chair speaking. I think we don't only belong to this committee. There are other committees. And as the co-chair said, we also have to make some internal consultations. I think we take our bona fides that we will attend to this matter this year within reasonable time. But for you to ask us to make a commitment now without having checked our schedules would be dishonest on our part, because we may tell you that next week, only to find that next week we have other commitments. So I want to plead with you to accept that we take this matter seriously and attend it at the earliest possible opportunity, not next year, but this year.
Thank you, Chair.
If we agree on that, co-chair, I think we should adjourn this meeting and only give the assurance that we take this matter seriously and we will attend to it within reasonable time. Thank you very much.
Uyigqibile mhlali ngaphambili. Singayivala mhlekazi.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Honorable Mchiva. Good to see you again.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Bye, members.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Slalo. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Chair. Bye. Bye. Team.